Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved the rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Puff the Magic Dragon is a good song for this story because at the end of this video you may decide that I'm quite the monster, because this is one of those stories that I cringed over for many years. And as things finally progressed, if you will, in the last year or two or three, I one day came to a realization that perhaps everything had not been as I thought. And that is to say, I think it's not untrue or even incorrect to say that we're meant to have experiences that are not just formative for ourselves, but we're part of other people's formative experiences. And this story is one of those. When I was a junior, I spent a semester as the locker room monitor. A friend of mine who was a senior had asked if he could be the monitor for that semester. And then our study hall, which he got out of, he was able to take somebody else. And he said, "Hey, Bob, would you like to do this?" And me and study hall didn't mix. It was like a mini suspension every day. And so I was grateful. But it allowed us the freedom, because once they're in gym class, there's nobody hanging around the gym room except us. It gave us a lot of freedom to just kind of goof, if you will. And Randy was a great guy to goof with. He was the individual who told me that he had been to Boys State between his junior and senior year. And so the only reason I went to Boys State, which is the mock government program put on by the Lions Club, was because Randy suggested I go. A number of interesting things about me going to Boys State, but one, you can find the week that I was there because on one of the days, Illinois experienced the largest earthquake of the New Madrid Fault in modern history. A 4.2 earthquake occurred. I was in my room chatting with guys. It felt like someone all of a sudden was kicking the walls and the floor below us. I look outside and people are flooding. Another true story, I was the Parks Commissioner for Colmy County. Yeah. But Randy and I used to wander the halls a little bit. And one day I thought it would be funny to pop into a Spanish class. And it was a substitute teacher that day. And since the sub may not have known who I was, I thought, hey, I'm going to give this a try. The teacher, I think, suspected it and called on me to answer questions, to which I told her, I don't have a book. My book, I forgot it. And much to my surprise, other kids in the classroom actually handed me their book. And I answered, I slaughtered a little bit of Spanish, if you will. But it gave me some gumption to try it again, probably a week or two later, when a buddy of mine from an algebra class, actually a few classes down, was sick. And the math class had a substitute, Mrs. Chakrabarty. And Mrs. Chakrabarty was Indian, as in East Indian. I think her husband was a doctor in town. But she would often teach the science and the math classes, because I'm guessing she had a degree in that. And I don't know what would make me think that I could do this. I'm pretty sure I had her for a sub somewhere along the way, and I'm pretty sure she knew exactly who I was, but for some reason, as the class was coming to a start, I snuck into the room and said that I was my buddy Eric. And I told my buddy Randy, I said, just come back to the door in a couple minutes and tell me you have a pass for Eric, and I'll sneak out with you. I'll come out. So that was the plan. And so I walk in and I sit down at Eric's desk, and the class is going. And as an Indian, Mrs. Chakrabarty was also, I'm certain, Hindu, because she had in the middle of her forehead the red dot. And I hadn't any intention of embarrassing her or making any specific notation of it. I seen her before. But she was doing an equation on the board, the answer of which resulted in a repeating decimal point. I don't know, 46.38 repeating. And she put a dot above the last number to show that it was repeating. And I remember sitting there and looking at the dot and looking at the dot on her forehead and suddenly having this profound realization that those two dots both represent the infinite. And this is true, I mean this. I wasn't trying to be sassy or trying to be mean. I raised my hand and she called on me. And I said, I was taught when you show the infinite number that you use a flat line, and you've used a dot. Do you use a dot because you have a dot on your forehead? And I'll never forget this. The girl in the row ahead of me literally goes, and about then, Randy shows back up at the door and says, hey, I have a pass, and the principal needs to see him, or somebody like that. And so I got up and I said, oh, I got to go. And I walked out of the room. Yeah, I got written up. I spent 3 days in detention for the escapades, in school suspension for the day. I read Logan's Run. I remember that very specifically. And, you know, I look back on this years later and I just cringe and go, why would I say that? And the answer was, as I actually broke out laughing on Sunday last week when I was thinking about this. But as my ADHD diagnosis workup says, I am very superior in identifying similarities between things. And the fact of the matter is, few, if any, kids in that school had ever considered that that was actually the fact. She absolutely used the dot because she knew that it represented the infinite. And I called her on it. And it was quite the moment for her. But if you think about it, the dot is often used by Hindi as a meditation tool. They focus on it. It's their focus into the infinite, if you will. And in any meditation, the goal is to have a high level of self-awareness. And if I did anything for Mrs. Chakrabarty that day, I most definitely raised her awareness about the infinite. I did. I felt terrible about it for a long time. But I hope that the true result was that somewhere in there it helped to raise and elevate her awareness of the world around her. And I hope that everybody here can understand and appreciate when I say it was tough being me as a kid. Because, one, why would I sneak into a classroom? And two, why would I say such insane things? And the answer is that we may not understand all of the interactions going on around us. But there's a purpose. And there's a reason. And I certainly hope that reason isn't because I'm some sort of monster. Because I'm not. I don't think so. I do think, however, I say some things. And they caught me quite off guard in historical senses of what they were really about. To Mrs. Chakrabarty, if you're still out there, God bless you for tolerating my day. Peace. Off the magic dragon.